First of all, I must apologize, Westball. I was not familiar with your game.
Are you familiar with the concept of evolution?
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes follows a character of Noah. Many years after the reign of Caesar, a young ape goes on a journey that will lead him to question literally anything and everything he's ever been taught. And that leads us into this. Let's talk about it. I think the thing about this movie that really works is it is a love letter to the previous trilogy. First of all, I want to make something clear. I don't know why we don't talk about that trilogy in high regard continuously. I don't know why we have to specifically talk about the Planet of the Apes movies to talk about how good that trilogy was. That is as good as a trilogy as any trilogy out there, bar none. That's comparative to Lord of the Rings and The Dark Knight. So let's just get that straight immediately. And so for this movie to come out, I was a little bit apprehensive, and I believe I was not the only one. I didn't love the initial trailer. I had a lot of question marks, and I'm so happy to report what a wonderful day this is because it's a great movie. It's really, 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 really good. Westball knocks this thing out of the park. My favorite thing though about this movie is Owen Teague. I think it was tough to ask him to follow up Andy Serkis and Caesar. But Owen Teague has this likability, relatability, and humbleness and meekness and authenticity about him that really, really comes through his character of Noah. And Owen just knocks it out of the park. If it were not for me and if it were not for you who already know who Andy Serkis was or is, I think there's a lot of people who would think like the transition between the two is so incredibly seamless. And it works really well. And that's due to one part, Owen Teague is really great in mocap and just a really great, naturally talented actor. And that's also due in part to Westball just knows how to build this world and drags you into it and makes you a believer that this is what would have followed that trilogy, what would have happened 300 years after Caesar. The world building of this thing is really, really immersive, almost James Cameron-like. And not that he hits those levels of James Cameron, but is certainly inspired by that. If you heard Westball talk about how he wanted to be inspired by Avatar: The Way of Water, trust him, it's not just lip service. It feels like he gets in that James Cameron bag a little bit, especially toward the end, and it really works. This is a beautiful movie. Like, the VFX in this is insane. Like, I'm still surprised that we get these things today, even in the year of our Lord Caesar 2024. Like, it really shocks me. It's so incredibly seamless. It looks so incredibly natural and authentic. And you really do believe that you are living in a world of, like, you forget that these are actual actors that are having computer generated images imposed on them. Like, they look so incredibly real. It's insane. If you were to show this to a random person in a vacuum that had no perception of reality, they would believe these apes existed. It's like the VFX and CGI is beautiful, and it's so incredibly seamless. The next thing I really want to talk about here that I had never heard of him before, Peter Macon in Rocka. He is certainly playing the Maurice character in this movie. Going into this, not only did I think it was going to be difficult to fill the shoes of Caesar, which I think Owen Teague did really well, you're going to have to fill the shoes of some of the other characters, including Maurice. And Rocka and Peter Macon really do a great job of that. There's so much sincerity and authenticity lended to the character of Rocka that I could just really feel the presence of Maurice. There's a version of this where I think it really feels like this is a descendant of Maurice. And not that that's true or not true. It just feels so incredibly authentic to the world that Matt Reeves and Rupert Wyatt brought to life. And because of that, I think Rocka really shines in this movie. It definitely feels like a character that really existed in those previous movies. And because that's a win in my book, I think. And finally, let's talk about Kevin Durand and Proximus Caesar. So there's a couple camps out there, and I think I'm somewhere in the middle. There's some people out there that are saying that they don't feel like he was in the movie enough, and I get it. There's some people out there saying he's fantastic, and I get it. I'm somewhere in the middle. I do wish we would have felt his presence more in the movie. He doesn't really show up until like the last part of the second act and then finishes the movie in the third act. And it's a 2 hour and 25 minute film. And it utilizes that time really well, though I do think it's a little bit long. It utilizes that time well. I just wish that we got a little bit more of Proximus Caesar and a little bit more of what he was trying to achieve, because it was a lot to figure out in that last act. And I do think it comes across well, for sure, but I would have loved to have felt his presence more throughout the entirety of the movie. Let's talk about Westball in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes as a movie. I didn't realize Wes Ball had this in him. And I, for one, and I'll speak for myself, when they announced that this movie was going to happen, I was very skeptical. When they announced that this movie was going to happen by the director of the Maze Runner films, I was extremely skeptical. And I'm so happy to report that the movie is not at all what you have pictured in your mind it would be. My concerns would be really YA. And I think there's elements in this movie where it goes YA just a little bit, but I think it works. Like, I think parts of Rise has YA in it, right? Whereas I think Dawn and War are a little bit more mature films, and this tries to reach those heights. I don't know that it ever gets there, and I don't know if it really attempts to go as like mature as those movies, but I do think it definitely feels like a descendant of those movies. And that's the best compliment I can give it. Wes Ball really gets in his bag, like his James Cameron bag. I'm not joking when I say that. You will understand the reference once you see the movie. It works. The world he builds here feels so incredibly authentic to that world that was built a decade ago. And it's fantastic. I really love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. I'll be shocked if it gets out of my top 20 by the end of the year. I like this one a lot. Last but not least, I wanted to mention Freya Allen. I had never seen her in anything. I think she's pretty fantastic in this movie. There's elements of her character I don't know completely works, and there's a lot of people that I've heard doesn't necessarily like her character. But what I will say is I think the ending of this movie is really compelling. It's fantastic. And there's also a moment in this movie where you're like, Wes Ball went for it. And he has it, and he went for it, and dude, I'm happy you went there. Thank you for going for it, and thank you for doing it. I think it really makes the movie better. You'll know that scene when you see it. It's really impactful. Anywho, if you liked what you see here and you want to see more, I have a Planet of the Apes trilogy podcast that I was just on recently. It's me and my friend Brady. We talk about all three of the previous films. We really like them, spoiler alert. And if you like this video, I think you'll like that video. Click here and see more. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. It helps the channel grow. I will see you guys next time.